She is standing a few steps away from him, holding her hands behind her back and toying at something on the floor with the tip of her shoe. Then he proceeds to make vague gestures at me and the child. He resembles a fish flopping for air with the way he's moving his arm, though I think he's trying to urge her to speak up.
Munchkin, I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Tio.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Tia what you told me the other day. And this morning.
Luke exhaled, rolling his eyes at the ceiling and maybe praying for the universe to grant him more patience. He knows a losing battle when he sees one. He may act worse than a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served a dose of his own medicine, huh? Once his frustration has been promptly let out, he points out a rude finger at me. I do my best to set the offending digit down, but I can already hear the demand before it's even out of his lips.
Come with us.
What makes you think I will?
Because little Rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault. I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her. So do me a favor, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you.
You're asking for a favor, and you can't be bothered to be polite? I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch.
Daisy, you just say yes.
No. A pause follows, almost too dramatic. Afterwards, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he's in a lot of physical pain. You'd think the man is getting an aneurysm by simply being polite.
Please?
Tia said it'll be his treat.
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin. I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
I promise I'll be quiet the next time I visit.
Oh, all right, but just one meal and make it the cheapest.
He and Ashton will get along famously on that department. On a different front, the offer of free dinner does sound enticing, however half-heartedly given it is. Mostly because Kylie has wisely put on her puppy eyes, and by the second, I find all my choices slipping away from me.
See, Miss Pink? It'll be fun. You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Oh, well,
My mobile buzzes from my pocket, cutting me mid-sentence, and for a second, I'm spared from the act of giving an answer I regret either way. Fishing the gadget out, I wave a hand at him and excuse myself. A disgruntled expression is on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I say it did not amuse me. He is as eager to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? Checking, a message from Ashton shows up. Oh! Hey Becca. I'll be around Salem well this evening. Need to meet someone in Deere. I might have to drop by yours and Isabella's place after. See ya. Just the usual. Unlike what he does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency to let us know when he's dropping by or is in the area for some business. From the way it's phrased, it sounds to be the latter. Either way, I'm glad he's at least aware of that boundary, not that Isabella's ever going to let him leave the building unscathed. If he ever pulls the same stunt he does with other men. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him. Sighing, I slip the gadget back to my pocket. But looking up to see Luke's utter impatience on his face, I now face a different dilemma. The two of them are still waiting, and knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him. All to please his godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell he's really fond of Kylie from his actions alone. I cannot aid to ruin that.
Well, Daisy, we're waiting here.
On the other hand, there's Ash. His message does not exactly imply he's going to wait, or is expecting me to be there, but there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to put it simply. Housewarming parties matter. With inviting Isabella out of the question, I only have Zachary and Ashton. Although the former has already made it clear he'll be busy this weekend, and well, Ashton has been my first choice from the start. Even if he detests attending gatherings like this, it's company that counts. We can be miserable together. But that's the problem, isn't it? He hates them, and it's very likely his answer will be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that. If by some miracle he agrees to it, he'll probably be sulking the whole party. Not really a tough choice when you put it like that. Still, tough choice, but I have to pick one. Oh man. Let's check the relationships. I feel like going with them is just trouble. Because this girl seems to be linked to the ghost lady somehow. And well, this guy is just being an asshole right now. So... At the same time... Alright, let's go, I guess. In the end, it's my own fun as a Fokali that wins out. Chances are, I'll only have to endure his presence for an hour or so. If it lasts more than that, I can make up an excuse, a sudden call from a friend, or things to work on. It doesn't seem so bad when I think of the pros and cons. At best, it would be a quiet dinner. At worst, it would be an awkward affair we're both eager to be rid of. I'm leaning more on the latter happening, hoping for the former, of course.
Okay, but only because Kylie asked.
Kylie's face instantly lights up. For the third time today, she tackles me into a hug before pulling away and dragging me by the hand towards the building's exit.
That's alright. I'm sure Tio doesn't mind. He let me pick where we're going to eat. Don't worry, it's just close.
Luke follows closely behind, and perhaps out of some desire to keep the dead hair away, I can't resist throwing it in a quip.
Keep your distance. You better not do anything funny, you hear?
I'm the one who should keep my distance. May I remind you who approached me first and what you did right after?
Oh, I remember it clearly, but perhaps it's you who needs a reminder. You seem to have never learned your lesson. Care we give it another try? Maybe this time it'll stick.
Maybe this time it'll stick. You think you're scary? I'll show you what's scary.
To my surprise, his tone lacks the usual sardonic note in it, and briefly I paused to stare at him. He quickly shut his mouth right after and walks ahead of us. All talk and no trousers like the usual, and for the better part of our walk, except for Kylie's excited chatter, we don't speak. Somehow I have this strange feeling I'm already getting used to this kind of banter with him. I'm not sure if that's good or bad thing. And amidst the newfound friendship, dare I call it that, Ashton's message lays forgotten and abandoned in my pocket. Achievement unlocked, dinner date. That's not a date. Of all the places nearest to the school, Kylie picks this one and waiting for food to be served is as is as awkward as I've imagined it would be. Not the bad sort though, the pleasant kind. Surprisingly, Luke's an okay bloke when he tries. So long as you're willing to look past the tactless remarks and we're not exchanging acerbic quips. It's clear he's making an effort for this to be as fun as possible for the 6 years old by being chattier, even going as far as to laugh when Kylie's story calls for it. It's an interesting thing to hear from the man. More than once, I catch his freaking cheese off expression easing whenever he looks at the girl.
And your friend? Did you make up with her?
What?
Yep. She said she just
Oh.
saw something she didn't like. She didn't accept the jellies, though. She told me to give it to you instead. She knows you like the red ones, too.
Very well. Hand it to me later. I'll bring some of them home. I think your Tia would love to have some.
What a terrible liar. He says he disliked the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? When Scully wanders to the nearby bookshelves after having lost interest in the conversation, however, we both revert back to silence. On our own, we have little to talk about, aside from a few questions about the other here and there. At one point, he does veer on local politics and history. He's surprisingly versed with it, that he can hold a decent conversation without throwing a jibe. Nothing too personal is ever mentioned so far though. It's too early for those, and besides, I don't like him enough to speak of every minute detail of my life. Better keep it strictly between the silence and the casual repartee. Ooh, they are getting close together now. I don't think that it's a good idea. This whole thing already looks and feels wrong on so many levels. I'm quite sure it feels the same. So, when another bout of silence hits us and becomes too much, I've taken to finding something else to occupy myself. Toying with my mobile, turning it from hand to hand while we wait for our respective meals. But it would be a complete lie if I say I'm not waiting for some intervention. Something to pull me away from this place. Someone. Ashton's probably at Salem Well by this time, working on whatever business he has there. Maybe if I make up an excuse and leave now, I can still catch him?
Cut that out, it's distracting.
What do you want now, Luke? My hand steals, holding the gadget awkwardly between us, arrested mid-pass by his bored tone. He's been quiet for a long minute now, after complaining about how appalling the tea they're serving the is. Before that, he has whined about how uncomfortable his chair is and tasteless the decoration they have there. Previous to that, he has scripted about how dull the place is compared to the one he frequents on the upper class side of the city. Well, I'm sorry for being a bunch of peasants, your majesty. Figures, lose patience soon enough. Having already grumbled about almost everything his eye can reach, it's just unfortunate it's turned to me now.
Why don't you just look somewhere else?
I can't. If I turn elsewhere, I might end up looking at the bobfuck right behind us.
Bob, do I even want to ask?
I don't want to hear it. If it's coming out of his mouth, it can only be either rude or offensive. Regardless, he continues.
Everything looks good. But have you seen the face? True horror.
Oh my god.
What is wrong with you? You know, I frown about this in practice, but that mouth needs to be washed out with a particularly potent soap.
Yep.
Preferably by your own mum.
A shame she isn't here,
For whatever reason, that puts an end to that talk right away. He returns to washing his godchild, who has found a particular